This video is going to be an energy update for the entire month of June 2026. June is going to be a very transformative, exciting, fast-moving, action-packed month. And this video is going to share with you the 5 main themes you might find yourself experiencing over the next month. Happy to be here, my friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you inside. Theme number 1, old emotions resurfacing, not just to drive you bananas, but for completion. The way out is through. Life has a brilliant way, does it not, of triggering you. Little circumstances can sometimes unfold. To the naked eye, they might seem kind of minimal, but to you emotionally, they can be big. And so many people, when they experience this, they think, oh man, I'm having a bad day. I wish I didn't feel all this anxiety, all this energy, all this emotion. It's throwing me off. It's occupying my headspace. But I'll tell you what, what's the alternative? The alternative is being oblivious to what's going on. Carl Jung said, the shadow can do a lot more harm in the dark than it can in the light. This month, you're going to have a lot coming to light so that you can release it, you can heal it, you can integrate it, you can move past it finally. And if this is happening to you, I want you to really just think about what I'm about to say. In my opinion, this is a fantastic thing. What I see right now on the planet are 2 different realities almost. Reality number 1 has people like you who are struggling maybe, feeling very emotional, having a lot of change coming into their life, a lot coming up for them, and it's not easy. And then reality number 2 are people who aren't really experiencing that all that much. And they're numbed out. They're oblivious to the fact that they're living a lie. They don't know how just unhappy they are. The dysfunctional societal conditioning has such a hold on them that they are just blindly adhering to it, chasing these superficial pursuits, numbing themselves, distracting themselves from what's really going on with social media and drugs and alcohol and consumerism and all this stuff. And they're not happy. They're not aligned. They're not supported. And they're experiencing their own misery. But they don't know that they have the power to change it. You do. And if you're watching videos like this, you are. But it involves cleaning out the closet, looking into the shadow, being with the emotions that life is bubbling up for you. And you might find that this month might be a little emotional, but it's not a bad thing. In fact, I just ran a big live breathwork ceremony for about 60 people just a few days ago. And about maybe 15 minutes into the ceremony, the room got very loud. People were, if you've been to one, you know, people start purging. You see people just start sobbing. People start yelling. People start shaking. People start just saying kind of these random outbursts times 60 people with loud music. It sounds like an absolute mess. And if it's your first time doing breath work, it can feel like we're all way worse off than before. Before the room was still, before we were just straight up chilling here, and now all of a sudden it's like it can feel very uncomfortable, very chaotic, very just maddening almost. But what's happening is people are healing. All of that drama, all of that stuff, all of that emotional affect that's now stirring in the breeze, it was always in the room. We just didn't know it. It was unconscious. And you know how people feel after going through that? Like $1 million. Released, healed, transformed, free, at peace. So you might have your own much more minimal, prolonged version of that. But my advice to you is to be patient with yourself. Be patient with the process. And know it's all happening for you. Number two, you might find some of your relationships coming around full circle. You might find that your heart is almost softening. And you may have had falling outs with people. You may have had challenging conflicts with people that at the time were very intense, full of energy and full of emotion, and maybe brought out the worst of all of you involved. And you might find that you have an opportunity to, whether in person or even from afar, make peace with that. Let bygones be bygones. Water under the bridge. Me and my friend Aaron, we've experienced this with multiple people in the last month, I would say. People who we had intense falling outs with, that we've been able to kind of reunite and come together in a good way, both having grown, both having let go of the past. And just last night, I went hiking with a couple of these people. And these are people we used to work with a lot and became very close with, did a lot of very intimate stuff with. And we haven't really talked for years. And I didn't know if we'd ever talk. I didn't know if they'd ever want to talk to me. I didn't know if I'd ever want to talk to them. But it just kind of happened spontaneously that we were given this opportunity to hang out. We went for a nice hike to, they call it Mini Bell Rock. And it was so beautiful. It was just like old times. And it's a real blessing. And I've had falling outs with other people in the past that I haven't been able to reconcile, and maybe you have as well. But I think what's happening right now on the planet is people, at least some people, are waking up, and it's like our hearts are opening and making room for the differences we may have rejected in other people. Making room for other perspectives, other personalities that may be hard to work with at times. And you might find you can rise above all of that and start to see other aspects of these people. You see their light, their glory, their beauty, and appreciate that in a very genuine, sincere, honest way. So what I'm trying to say to you, that's just my experience, but it's in the astrology too, if you look it up. If there's anybody in your life that you've had a falling out with, I challenge you to call them and just talk to them. And that can be remarkably healing and cathartic and beautiful. Sometimes you have to be the one to initiate it. You know, I had a psychic one time that I was telling about my dad and I aren't really all that close. And, and she said, well, he's old school. Of course, he's not going to reach out to you. Of course, he's not going to show that much affection. He's old school, and he is. He's like 75, went to Vietnam, he's just like it's like from that generation where my dad grew up, they weren't really taught what I was taught. They weren't really shown it's okay to express fear and love and affection. They had to be stoic, seen and not heard, the man. So a while back, I reached out to my dad and I just shared with him, I said, thank you. There was something that happened in my childhood that, in retrospect, I realized was like so pivotal for me. It was when I was hit by a firecracker a long time ago. My dad, because he was in the war, he was the only one that stayed calm. And he was like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It wasn't okay. I was badly hurt and everybody was freaking out. My dad was like, it's okay. It's okay. You're fine. Not that bad. And I remember like believing in him, and it felt so, it was so helpful. And I just called him one day. We don't really talk about it. I called him one day out of the blue, and I just said, thank you, Dad, and here's why. And it was profoundly healing for both of us, honestly. And I had to initiate it, and I don't fault him for not, and you might as well. Who have you had a falling out with that you miss, that you could reach out to and maybe break the ice, break the tension, break the ties, and let go of the past together? It's a good time to do that, my friend. There is no greater gift sometimes than a reconciliation that I just described. Through all this healing and transformation and maybe doing things you never thought you would do, you might find yourself mid-month, perhaps even, embodying like a new mindset, a new identity, seeing yourself like really in a different light. As you heal and as you maybe reconnect with people from the past, and as you kind of just go along this journey that life has taken you on, you'll find that you start to just realize how much you've changed. I went through this a few months ago, actually, after a very prolonged period of uncertainty that really drove me bananas. I went through a period of really not knowing where I'm going to go in life, who I am, what's authentic. Things in my life that once worked weren't working, and it was a very confusing and challenging time. And even though nothing on paper was really harming me or anything, emotionally I was tense for months. My sleep was affected. I was in it, man. I was in a dark night of the soul. I just wouldn't seem to let up. And one day I was just kind of sitting there, staring off, enjoying a temporary little moment of peace. And I realized, as much as I would never want to go through that period again, I realized how much it helped me. I felt genuinely more stoic, stronger, more tapped into myself. I still didn't even know where life was taking me, but I realized that prolonged period of just not knowing and uncertainty and all the stuff I said, it had an effect on me. And it's almost hard to put into words, but there was this recognition of genuine growth. Not in the form of a temporary inflation because something's suddenly going my way. I mean something that's there during the good times and the bad times. Something within me that is sort of kind of solid and stable. And this month you might start to realize you have had already your own version of that. And from this recognition, you might find yourself realizing, oh, maybe I could be doing a lot more with my life. You might start reevaluating certain things that you've shied away from and realizing, you know what? I can do that. During this event I was talking about, we had the participants go on what we call a stretch experience. And this is on the very last day, where we have them write down something they would really not want to do, something that would be really challenging to them. We didn't tell them why. So everyone's like, okay, this would be my thing. I really would never want to do this, guys. And then we said, okay, well, guess what? You have to go do that now. And they did. And they did. And I saw one gentleman come up, and he came up with tears in his eyes, and he said, I asked a woman out on a date for the first time in 30 years. And I've never done it sober. He said, I didn't expect her to say yes. But you know what? She did say yes. It really was so touching to see. Not that he got the number from the woman, but because he just, of his own accord, chose to break through. June will give you opportunities to do exactly that in your own way. Break through. To really test your boundaries. You might find that they're not as strong as you once thought. You might find that you're a lot more powerful than you once believed. And this is a month where you're having an opportunity to prove that and demonstrate that to yourself. And as you do that, you'll realize there's so many opportunities that can oftentimes open up when you really see what you're made of. Theme number 4 is rest and recalibration. Usually during action-packed months, there's a lot of stuff going on. There can be sometimes even a feeling of being charged up with inspiration / creative energy. And it's fantastic, but it's not very sustainable. And in order to maintain kind of a good output, you might say, all month, it will demand you take time to just do nothing. Reminds me of when I used to run retreats at my house a long time ago. Throughout the day, I would take multiple naps and cold ice baths. Because I was so charged up the whole time, I would literally burn out in maybe under 24 hours if I didn't balance that with recovery. It's like professional athletes. They say the harder you train, the harder you have to recover. The more often you go in the sauna, the more stretching you do, the healthier your diet, the better quality your sleep. And you might find a couple of things are causing you to expend energy. One is feeling like just like the expansive manifestation spirit type of energy that's big time present right now already, and your busy life, and maybe your habits, your social media habits, your television habits. A combination of all that is a disaster for your nervous system. And you might find yourself just realizing that. And the good news is you don't have to burn out. You might just have an intuition and you might feel drawn to spend more time in nature, spend more time meditating maybe, journaling. Even me, sometimes just sitting still for like 10 minutes. In fact, me and Aaron, after running an event, we went to the creek yesterday, and we both, in our own way, kind of found a place to relax. Aaron, incidentally, he found a way to kind of lay down in the creek, where he literally laid down in this shallow water with water rushing over him, and he laid his head on a rock. And it appeared that he took a nap while in like the river. I found like a flat rock to lay against. But I remember we both did this for like maybe 10, 12 minutes. And then we kind of woke up and came back. And I could just tell by our conversation how much we recharged. We felt so much better in just 10 minutes of nature, 10 minutes of quiet time. It doesn't take long, but it's very important you give that to yourself. I used to burn out so badly back in the day. I would not understand the concept of leaving a little gas in the tank, not overextending myself. I didn't understand the value of downtime. You might not need me to tell you this. You probably already intuitively feel this would benefit you. And then it's about just doing it. Finding the time, finding what works for you. Maybe you don't want to go into a river. Maybe there's no water around. Fine. What calms you down? What causes you to feel replenished? What I used to do back in the day also is I'd put in earplugs, and I would even lay back in my car, and I would close my eyes, and I'd set a timer for 20 minutes. I'd take a little cat nap. And that actually has been proven to give you more energy in the afternoon than a cup of coffee. So take a nap, it's okay. Number 5, this is maybe more so geared in particular to people who watch my channel, honestly. But you might find yourself feeling called to step into some type of role of leadership. You might start to notice just how much further along you are spiritually than many people. You might start to notice just how in demand good guidance is. And you might feel called to help people heal, transform. You might feel called to create something that just benefits the whole in some way. Maybe you want to clean up the ocean. Maybe you want to adopt a pet. There's so many different ways of giving back. And you might find yourself doing that. But in particular, I suspect a lot of you are going to feel called to do something that involves working with people. And I know that's can kind of come out of left field and be kind of a scary thing. And it's very common for the person not to feel qualified, not to feel ready, not to feel healed, etc. And what I've learned is that you don't have to. You'll learn and you'll heal and you'll grow as you go into this. And what comes to mind is a woman who was sort of counseling me about my book. A friend of mine, Melanie Beckler, she's written many books, and I was trying to pick her brain about it. And I was like, how do you write all those books, Melanie? I just can't seem to write the first one. And she said, Vic, I had to accept that the book I'm writing now would be a lot better off if I waited 10 years. You have to be willing to accept that. Otherwise, you'll never write the book. Because we could always be more healed. We could always have come further in life. We could always be more qualified. Always. So when we're 90 years old, we can tell ourselves, well, you know what? I'd be better off becoming a spiritual teacher when I'm 91. But that mentality leads to not ever doing anything, obviously. Bottom line is, Melanie's written many books. I haven't. That's okay. It's a work in progress for me. But what is your version of that? What is your book? What is something that you feel called to do but feel like you're not ready for? Now's the time to boldly go out there and do it. And you have to let it be sloppy. It's going to be sloppy. It's not going to be your best work in the beginning. You have to allow yourself to go through the newbie, beginner mistakes, the awkward phase. Like right now, as of filming this video, I have probably filmed over 2,000 or maybe even way more videos. Maybe 1,000 are on YouTube, but I've filmed even more in other ways as well. A couple thousand videos. It's easy for me now. I like it. There's no anxiety whatsoever. In fact, I feel my best. But in the beginning, I was full of blocks, full of doubt. It was so hard for me to get one video completed. I used to have to go to great lengths to get one video completed, and it still wasn't even that good. But if I expected to be where I'm at back then, I would have never started. And the interesting thing is, what I found is sometimes what I perceive to be like my poor performances are actually the videos that go viral. In fact, my first viral video is called The Hermit Phase of Awakening back many years ago. I filmed it on kind of a gloomy day outside of my trailer, my travel trailer. I climbed up this hill. And I remember I filmed the video and I was walking down the hill thinking, I'm not gonna even post this. I felt like I was all over the place. I felt like it was like incoherent, and I don't know, I had like my judgments about it. And then, I don't know why I chose to, but I eventually just chose to put it up there anyways. And at one point, that video was earning me 1,500 subscribers a day. It just skyrocketed my channel, a video I almost never put up. So not only will you learn and grow as you go, but you also might not have the most accurate assessment of yourself anyway. You also might not understand that you in your imperfect form might actually be exactly what people need. Now's the time to have that sloppy beginning. If this resonates, if the universe is calling you into a role of service, you don't have to know how it's going to look. You don't have to be perfect. All this stuff comes of its own accord. It comes synchronistically. It comes when you start walking the path. There are opportunities and ideas that are invisible to you right now, but will become visible and once you just start as best you can. Let me know in the comments if this last part resonates, please. Do you know in your soul it's time for you? Like it's now time. For a while you've been gearing up for it, but do you feel now is the time to finally make that shift? To finally step out there out of your comfort zone and give back what you have? If so, please leave a comment below and let me know. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. God bless. Peace.